This week's edition of NJBIA's Minding Your Business is brought to you in part by AT&T, helping family, friends, and neighbors connect in meaningful ways every day. PPAC Gladstone Bank, known nationally and in New Jersey for providing unparalleled client service, integrity, and trust for over 100 years. New Jersey's community colleges, aligning education to build an innovative workforce. Find out how your business can benefit at njpathways.org. And by New Jersey Business Magazine, providing critical information needs for New Jersey's business community for more than 66 years.
Welcome to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. Well, private career schools are a great alternative for students seeking skills for a specific occupation. But a proposed rule is making it more challenging for those schools to maintain their certificates of approval. Here to tell us more about it is NJBIA Vice President of Government Affairs, Althea D. Ford. Althea, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while. We're so glad you're here. You've been doing great work for BIA.
Well, thank you.
All right, but before we talk about this rule, let's talk about these schools. What kind of schools are going to be impacted? What are we talking about?
Sure. So private career schools is just one genre of school that we're talking about here. Basically, we're talking about institutions that offer career-oriented programs.
Okay.
And so career-oriented programs are basically programs that are preparing learners for a specific occupation or industry.
Got it.
So we think HVAC, electrician in the trades,
Right.
medical assisting, dental assisting, and the like.
Yeah, even like cosmetology.
Correct.
Okay,
Exactly.
yeah. So what is this rule being proposed and who's proposing it?
Sure. So the rule being proposed is coming out of the Department of Labor and Workforce Development, but it's also, it's coming out more so from a law that was passed last year in 2022. And so the law was brought out of concern from the legislature about the ability for students that were attending career-oriented programs of study, their ability to be gainfully employed upon graduation.
Got it.
Right. And so the concerns there were around, whether or not the programs were preparing students for the ability to pay back loans and other resources that they might have needed to rely on in order to complete the program. And so it was really kind of capturing and addressing that concern that the program should be preparing students not only for meaningful employment, but something that could allow them to sustain a good work-life balance.
Okay, so part of this law, there has to be rules that are promulgated that establish minimum standards for these schools to have, correct?
Correct. And so the purpose of the law is really trying to hone in on whether or not schools are charging fees that are commensurate with their salary prospects and outlooks upon graduation. And so the state law establishes that a minimum performance standard be created, and it just says that the institution shall consider tuition and aid as part of that equation.
Got it.
The Department of Labor, as well as the Office of Higher Education, in their rules, get to drill down a little bit deeper on what is that actual equation and what is the standard, the minimum standard.
Right, so conceptually, a program might not meet a standard, but this rule, proposed rule, would actually close the entire school. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And so with that, the Department of Labor's rules are basically establishing that the minimum performance standard be at or below 10%. And so how they get to this calculation is they're looking at the tuition minus any institutional aid divided by, yes, love the equation, right? Divided by 10% of the average earnings
right.
for that particular occupation.
Right.
And again, the goal is trying to figure out whether or not, when upon graduation and entering into the workforce, is this individual going to be able to secure resources, financial resources, to pay back whatever the cost was to attend school.
Right, I got it.
But the challenge, as you mentioned before, is in the law's language, it specifically makes reference to the Department of Labor being able to take one of three stances against a school whose program doesn't meet the standard.
Got it.
So it's not that the school is not performing. It's saying that if any of your programs are not meeting the standard, that certain action could be taken.
Right.
The law says that you could take that DOL could take one of three stances. They could revoke a license, they could suspend a license, or they could make the license conditional.
Okay.
The concern with the DOL regulations is that in their language, they specifically say that if a program does not meet the standard, that DOL shall revoke the license. And we have serious concerns with that.
Yeah, it's a bit heavy-handed.
Yes.
And once a license is revoked or suspended, there's a whole process, I'm assuming, to get it back, correct?
Correct.
And it could take some time.
It could, very well so. So in the DOL, the proposed regulations, they do map out a process for reinstating that license.
Okay.
But our concern is that on the onset, the ability for such a stringent action to be taken against a school based on the performance of one program is a bit egregious.
Right. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about one of our great members, ACI Medical and Dental School in Eatontown. This is a very established school, so I'm sure this would not impact them. But they do have dental assistants, they have medical assistants, they have administrative assistants. So if, God forbid, one of those programs were down, the whole school would shut down, just to put in layman's terms.
Correct. So because each of the schools are relying on that certificate of approval to operate, the challenge would become that if one of those programs is jeopardized and not meeting the standard, there may be a host of notification requirements that the school may have to give to all of its students regarding its license to operate all three of those programs. Even though the other two programs are not in jeopardy, those students could be very well concerned about what's happening to their school, what's going to be in their future.
Absolutely.
If things are not rectified.
Yeah, and even reputationally too, they got to think about that. What are you hearing from folks in schools, like leaders in schools? What's their level of concern with the proposed rule?
Sure. So I think the major concern is the idea that such an egregious action could be taken based on the performance of one program. As we know, many of our programs, or many of the schools, are not operating single programs.
Right.
So there's going to be some implication for how do we communicate with the other programs that are successful, what's happening to our license based off of the performance of one program.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I say kids, but sometimes it could be young adults, obviously. They're the ones who are going to be hurt if there's school closure when it's really not necessary.
Correct.
What is NJBIA asking the Department of Labor in fighting back against this rule?
Sure. So during the comment period for the Department of Labor's proposed rules, we communicated our concern with taking that most stringent approach. We noted that if the department needed to take any action against the license, recognizing that there's some statutory changes that might need to be considered in order for them to do some other action. But if they needed to take action against the license, that they should consider the conditional approval as like the least stringent of the three options.
Gotcha.
And allow for a cure period for those institutions to correct whatever issue is happening with the program that created the issue in the first place.
Very interesting. Seems like a decent alternative. How about in terms of where this rule is? I mean, you mentioned that the comment period has just ended. How long till DOL has to decide on formalizing it?
Sure. So I believe DOL really has about a year from its initial proposal or the publishing of the initial proposal to take some formal action, whether they say we agree with everything, whether they say we're not going to make any changes, or whether they just choose to kind of let it sunset and then reintroduce rules at a later date.
So complicating this a little bit, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but aren't there different state entities that kind of oversee these programs that we're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
So under the large umbrella of career-oriented programs, you have career-oriented programs offered by or under the jurisdiction of the Office of Higher Education.
Right.
So those are our typical 2-year and 4-year institutions, and some degree granting proprietary schools, but mostly the 2 and 4 years. And then you have the programs that are operating out of the Department of Labor. So those are kind of the programs we typically look to when we think of career-oriented programs, your Lincoln Techs, your Berkeley colleges, and the like. And then there's a third subset of programs that are offered through the Division of Consumer Affairs, and they're managed by their specific licensing board. So for example, our cosmetology schools. And so the nuance of this program, or of this concept of career-oriented programs, and the rules that are being promulgated is that we could conceivably have two different rules based on whether your program is under the jurisdiction of DOL or under the jurisdiction of the Office of Higher Education. So as the rules are being considered by both entities, we would also kind of need to compare, well, how is each entity defining career-oriented school or program? And then what is the criteria that they are using to determine the minimum acceptable level of performance?
Got it. Althea, I just want to jump to we got a couple minutes left here. We're entering lame duck season. As we tape this, it's election day. Everybody's very excited. But as right after election day, between then and the start of the new legislature, some things could be coming down the pike. What in your world are you paying attention to for lame duck?
Sure. So yes, it is definitely a very exciting season to say
It's
the
dynamic.
least. But one of the issue areas that I cover is childcare. And so there is a robust package that came from Senate Majority Leader Teresa Ruiz that's covering a myriad of issues around childcare that we are very supportive of. Some of those bills have already passed, which
Right.
we're glad for, but we're looking to get the others to the finish line.
Gotcha.
Another issue area that I'm looking to kind of cover and make sure we're on solid footing with is regarding summer TAG. And so TAG stands for Tuition Aid Grants.
Okay.
And so these tuition aid grants, students are able to use the funds from the grants during fall and spring season.
Sure.
However, the concept of taking courses during the summer and using the money from these grants for the summer just kind of was not one of the main priorities of the legislature.
Kids can still learn in the summer.
Right, exactly. So there was legislation that passed last year to authorize the issuance of the grants, or allow for the use of the grants during the summer 2003 season. And there's new legislation to kind of basically do the same thing for 2024.
Okay.
So we're very supportive of that because it gives students and learners, right? Because I don't want to assume everyone is
Sure.
young, but
Absolutely.
Learners the opportunity to complete the degree on their timeline and conceivably enter the workforce sooner than they would be conceived if they were only using the money during fall and spring.
Well, it sounds like you're going to have a very busy holiday season.
Indeed.
And early January. Thanks so much for being here, Althea D. Ford.
Thank you very much.
And the
It's a pleasure
D
to be
stands
here.
for dynamic, dynamite. We'll be back right after these words.
We are made to connect. Stepping into limitless possibilities. As we create with purpose, influencing the culture as we rise. Contributing to a world of inspiration.
We are Black Future Makers.
Welcome back to NJBIA's Mind Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. Well, NJBIA recently held its third annual Energy Policy Conference, and according to one presenter, New Jersey can help meet its carbon goals by using current pipelines to deliver renewable natural gas and clean hydrogen to homes and businesses. According to New Jersey Resources CEO Steve Westhoven, the state should not overlook what's already underground when it comes to clean energy. Have a look.
We're committed to emissions reductions and really for providing and creating a pathway forward to meet our clean energy goals. And we think we can do this in a less costly way, less disruptions to families and businesses, and do it in a way that protects the energy reliability to keep our economy growing and to keep our businesses competitive. So this overall approach to innovation, concentrating on lowering emissions and using our existing infrastructure can work here in New Jersey. And we know this can work because we're already starting to move forward in doing this. And we have a $17 billion head start. So what does that mean? We've got a $17 billion head start. It's really the investment that we've already made in the pipeline grid here in New Jersey to basically maintain and build a very reliable and robust network. And that $17 billion, it's your money, it's your family's money, it's your business's money, and it's money that's been invested over decades. So I would imagine that if any one of us made a $17 billion investment that you wouldn't walk away from that $17 billion investment. You'd want to be able to use that going forward. You're not going to discard it. I'd say that you've got an obligation to use it going forward, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's talk a little bit more about the $17 billion investment. The $17 billion investment is the pipeline network that supplies energy to 75% of New Jersey residents. What that means is you got 35,000 miles of pipeline system in the state of New Jersey, more than any other state and at a higher customer penetration rate than any other state in the Northeast. This pipeline system, it serves 1,500 critical infrastructure facilities in New Jersey Natural Gas's territory alone. So you can imagine it's much larger as you go throughout the rest of the state. And these critical facilities use pipeline energy as their primary energy and also as backup energy, 24/7, 365 days a year. So why is that important? This is your hospitals. This is your nursing homes. These are your schools, your firehouses, EMS, police stations, water treatment facilities, and your military bases, all served on a year-round basis. But it's what our pipelines do on the coldest days of the years that's really important. So on those cold days, nearly 7 million residents in the state of New Jersey are getting the heat that they need to stay warm. And just to put this in perspective, on those cold days, we move about 5 billion cubic feet of gas through our systems. That's enough to fill MetLife Stadium 70 times over, right? A lot of energy. So let's continue on that same thought thread and make a comparison about how much energy that is, right? That's 60 gigawatts in terms of electricity just moving through the gas system. So to put that in perspective, on our peak day during the summertime, we move about 17 gigawatts of electricity. So 17 gigawatts compared to 60 gigawatts just to heat. So to continue, making those comparisons, in order to hit 60 gigawatts, in order to meet that load, what will we have to build? We'd have to build about 8 times the amount of solar that we have today. We'd have to build 8 times more wind than we have projected to be built in 2030, or we'd have to build 47 Oyster Creek-sized nuclear facilities to meet 70 gigawatts of energy. So it's an incredible amount of energy. The energy density going through the pipeline is an incredible amount to be able to serve the load that we need on our coldest days. So at NJR, we've been looking to reduce emissions, for a long time. We've studied this. We looked at ways to reduce costs, reduce emissions, and essentially make a pathway forward to getting to the 2050 goals. In our studies, we found that if you take a singular path forward, you don't include the pipeline system, just a single path forward, we'd spend about $100 billion to make this transition. Plus, we'd have to build a number of additional infrastructure. If you use the pipeline system, you can cut that in half. You'd have to spend about $50 billion. Still a large number, but it's certainly a lot less in comparison. And that's because of the large energy, as I just described, that is delivered on pipelines today. We can achieve this, emissions reductions with pipelines, and we can do it safely and reliably, just like we deliver our energy today safely and reliably. And we can do it with almost no outages, which is important in an area like ours along the coast that may be subjected to additional storms, moving forward. So let's think about how difficult it would be to replicate our pipeline system, especially in a dense state like ours. We all know how hard it is to get permits to build things. There's simply no way that you could build a system to deliver that same amount of energy for the $17 billion that I just described. So the question we have to ask in trying to reach our 2050 goals is, can we think bigger about how we're going to use our infrastructure going forward? And that's really the foundation of the view that I want to share today. We have an electric system, we've got a pipeline system, and they work together to serve the energy needs of our state. And we need both of those systems to reach our goals. We're already building renewables to put clean electrons on the electric grid. So the question I ask is, why don't we have the same commitment to put renewable energy, clean fuels, into our pipeline system and use all the assets we have in order to lower emissions? So let's talk about now moving from the vision of what I described to actual strategy of what we're doing. Every one of the solutions that you see up here is available today. And taken together, they can be part of a broader solution to lower emissions significantly by 2050. So let's start with the biggest question, the clean fuel component of this. There's a new generation of clean fuels. We've got renewable energy sources that are delivered through the existing pipeline infrastructure. These allow us to replace our traditional fossil gas that we deliver today. And they allow us to use our pipeline assets to reduce emissions. They're clean fuels. It's renewable natural gas. It's hydrogen. It's synthetic methane. Some things that people haven't even really talked about until now. Renewable natural gas, it comes from existing sources that emit biogas. It's your wastewater treatment facilities, it's your landfills. You clean up that gas and you put it through the pipeline, burns the same as natural gas, and essentially has a lot lower carbon intensity associated with it. Clean hydrogen can also replace fossil fuels. As I mentioned before, the federal government has put a lot of money towards reducing the price of clean hydrogen and really driving a hydrogen economy. The goal is to make it clean and cost competitive with traditional fossil fuels. And it can be used across the economy, right? Transportation, industry, aviation, there's a lot of other benefits for driving forward with clean hydrogen. And with clean hydrogen, your pipeline infrastructure is going to be critical to be able to transport it and deliver it. As we scale up the renewable fuels, we can also capture carbon emissions from the systems. So typically, historically, when we talked about carbon capture, it was always on a big manufacturing facility or a power plant. But the technology has evolved to the point that you can use these systems for small and medium businesses. In fact, we're going to do it very soon at our Monmouth County headquarters. It's placing a unit, it's about size of about 2 refrigerators. And what it does, it essentially pulls the carbon from the flue gas, and what you're able to do is drop that out as a solid. So you reduce the carbon emissions of essentially the fuel that you use. And this is really going to empower businesses, right? What you're going to be able to do is, businesses that are small, that don't have a practical way forward, can essentially keep their same boiler, but still are able to reduce the emissions, going forward. And finally, energy efficiency. This is one that all the utilities are going to lean into, and it's really the blocking and tackling of emissions reductions. And that's weatherization, it's insulation, it's sealing homes and businesses to make them a little bit tighter. It's replacing low efficiency equipment with much higher efficiency equipment, and it's really one of the easiest and cheapest ways that we can reduce emissions. And there's innovation happening in this space too. There's been breakthroughs with highly efficient, gas heat pumps, hybrid home technology. What essentially that is, when you have a hybrid car, you've got the ability to burn gasoline, and you've got the ability to run on electric as well. A hybrid home works very similarly. Use the best of both worlds in that technology. And these advancements, they reduce energy usage, they lower emissions, and they've got the benefit of being a lot less disruptive to customers. Again, every single one of these technologies is available today. It makes our plan realistic, it makes it achievable, and it speaks to the open pathway approach that's important to reach the 2050 goals.
Finally today, a conversation with 2 of NJBIA's big award winners from the recently held Women Business Leaders Forum. We had a chance to catch up with Celest Quintana, an owner of 10 McDonald's franchises, who was awarded the prestigious 2023 Caren Franzini Leadership Award. And we also talked with longtime Business Development Advisor Sally Glick, the recipient of NJBIA's Legacy and Leadership Award for 2023. Have a look and a listen. All right, so we're here with Celest Quintana, the winner of the 2023 Caren Franzini Leadership Award. Celeste, congratulations. Did you know Caren at all?
Yes, I did. Caren and I served in New Jersey manufacturers. We served on the board and NJBIA also.
Right, so pretty big honor to be awarded with this?
The honor is amazing. When just to be in the same breath as Caren, just the same thought as Caren, and just the whole, I will always cherish that amazing, beautiful award.
Right.
And in my heart, she'll always be alive because I will always thank her and respect her. She was an amazing woman. She was amazing.
That's very nice. Now let me ask you about this award. You know, we talk about you a lot as the owner and operator of how many McDonald's now?
10 McDonald's.
10 McDonald's in northern New Jersey. But you know, we've seen it firsthand. You've also helped the community in which you serve. How important is that at the end of the day with all you do?
If you can go into a community and you can go in there, pop in, make money, because we have to make money. We have to pay the lights and we have to pay the food.
Yeah.
But if you don't become part of the community, and if you don't become threaded and in the fiber of the community, you haven't done your job. Yeah. And it's always right to give back. And as Ray Kroc will say, you always have to give back to the community because the community can make you or the community can break you. And we have an amazing relationship in the community because I was raised in Newark. So it's not, I'm back in my community. Mm-hmm. So it's not that difficult, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy, and my daughter does an amazing job at being part of that community.
Yeah, well deserved for this. Let me ask you one more question, Celeste, before we leave. This event, 9th Annual Women Business Leaders Forum, powered by NJBIA. How important is this event? You've been to many of these. How have you seen it grown, and what happens?
Well, when I walked in here this morning, I was at awe. And I couldn't believe, and you guys do an amazing job, and Michelle is just an amazing leader. Yeah. But when I walked in and to see the amount of vendors that are here, the amount of people that are here, the amount of the caliber of the people that are here, it's all to Michelle and her team. And Michelle is an amazing leader, and I always tell her that if you run for president, I will be out there campaigning for you.
You and me both, right? Well, Celeste Quintana, thank you and congratulations on this award.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, Sally Glick, the winner of the 2023 Legacy and Leadership Award here at NJBIA's Women Business Leaders Forum. Sally, what does it mean to you to win this award?
Well, it means everything because I've spent a lifetime in this career and I've worked really hard to be a good leader, to engage with others. There's some wonderful books out there about leadership and the kinds of skills that it takes. Right. And I want everyone who's around me to always be their best, and that makes me my best.
I have to say, I've been to this event many years now. You seem to get the most people who gravitate to you, who want to say something, who want to give you a hug. First of all, how do you remember everyone's name? And two, how important is it for you to be a mentor to so many people?
So I love being a mentor. First of all, I'm an only child. So that answers a little bit of it, right? All of the people I've met, all of the interactions I've had almost take the place of siblings. But I have found that in life, my job is so wonderful when it's integrated with everything I do all the time. Right. So I don't separate work from play. The things that I do, the people I interact with, the friends I've made, fill both roles. And so it's meaningful for me. And when someone says, I need your help, it's like a little electric shock goes through me that I'm adding value for somebody.
That's great.
And it feels good.
And how does this event, last question, how does this event kind of feed into that? I mean, this is all about mentorship.
It's all about mentorship. It's all about encouraging each other. In this instance, it's actually women helping women, giving them that leg up, giving them the opportunity, not being told that there's not enough room at the top, but that yes, there's the more that are up there, the more room we make. Right. And this kind of program encourages that and lives it and breathes it. It's a foundation for women in business, is to be at events like this. Right. And I love seeing all these people, and I don't remember their names. I quietly look at the name tag. I'm like, oh my God, of course.
Of course.
But I want them to feel like they're remembered. Yeah. Because they should be.
Yeah, well, you're always going to remember it, and I just want to congratulate you on this award again.
Thank you. It's wonderful. Pleasure to be here.
All right, thank you, and congratulations to Celeste Quintana and Sally Glick. And thank you for joining us on NJBI's Minding Your Business. We'll see you next time.
You're first. First to respond. First to put others' lives before your own. And in an emergency, you need a network that puts you first. that connects you to technology and each other, that's built with and for first responders. FirstNet, the only officially authorized wireless network for first responders. Because putting you first is our job.